Hello, I'm just going to give you a little idea of how I started my apprenticeship in 1950. Left school in September 1950 and started with Harry Kell in the November. So went over to Soho, met this 70-year-old man, a grandfather figure, real Victorian workshop, Dickensian, an old coal fire in the corner during the cold winters we had. I'm just showing you this. These are my very early pieces. I had to file out a lot of these plates because we didn't have the steel at the time, and of course that was the idea. Harry Kelly gave me a blunt file and some emery cloth, and I polished up the old plates, and so a lot of my earlier stuff has been erased. These are the borders we used to do on the guns. So we practiced these, sit down and practice, get used to the graver. We sat at like the jewelers do, none of the ball vise and pneumatic stuff then. It was the hand push tools. And we had a hand clamp, just like the jewelers would use, you know, the type of thing when they're making rings and filing those up, and a little peg coming out the side. So we sat sideways, and I always wanted to sit square on, you know, just like ordinary engravers with a sandbag, you know, square on, but we didn't do that. Elbows on the side at an angle, you see, so we all sat in a row. And see, this is the earlier parts here, early attempts at scroll work. And, and these were done within the first few weeks, you see, and then later on, just a month or so, 2 or 3 months, you started on the large scroll. And it's always a small scroll in there. Apprentice wanted me to be a hack engraver, you see, just doing this small scroll, maybe the large scroll. On their guns, they had 70 a year, and so didn't expect me to go into doing all the elaborate stuff that I do later on, because it was time consuming, they said, and it would stop the production. You read Richard Beaumont's book and he'll tell you something about that in Apprentice, you see. So this is a large scroll, and there, and I like doing my own little designs. I didn't like doing just a repetitive stuff. I wanted to do, even at that period, wanted to make something interesting, you know. So this is my attempts at the small scroll, the main thing that the London guns used to have on. Holland and Holland's had more of the larger type of scroll. You see these types of scrolls following Kell style at the time. And then I had day released to art school, and you went there and met a lot of the other engravers, the banknote engraving and silver engraving. So you had a rough idea of how they worked too, you see. And of course, when you get another tutor or another teacher like George Friend, he would look at my work from another point of view, you see, and he would say, you know, it's a bit repetitive, some of that. Why don't you start putting some different shapes in, you know, to make it more interesting? Whereas you just ran along with the same old routine types of scroll year after year, you know, and nobody would notice it, see. So this is a Kell type. He developed this style of scroll, more of the knob type, you see. I call it knob type. And it's a small scroll again. And this one here is the open engraving, you see. It's more open work. You see the small scroll. So I think the small scroll was developed, as I mentioned before, by the jewellery engravers. When the gun makers needed some engraving done after the flintlocks that had austere type of scrolls on them, they brought these engravers in, and with the hammer guns, the little bits and pieces on them, and they put their small scroll on. You know, you did a price, and so they worked on that into the gun. You know, that Purdy would have done that. So the early Purdy's were larger scrolls, you see. But then it gradually developed to the fine stuff. And you see that on ladies' lockets in the Victorian times and snuff boxes, any small pieces. And see, the largest, the open scrolls then, other gun makers had their own patents, and they liked certain styles of work, you see. You did it at a price, and you can cover the guns, and that's an earlier piece, you see. Again, I'm tightly trying to design my own stuff and cut away. Everything was cut away, the background was cut away, line after line after line. None of the Bellino type we're getting now that everybody seems to like doing, and no pneumatics. It was just hand pushed. We didn't even do the hammer and chisel. I developed that later on when I met René Delcourt from Belgium. And you can gradually get natural at it, you know. I often wonder when you're using the hammer and chisel, you use the chisel in the left hand, whereas I'm right-handed. You know, if we use the graver on this, I'm using the right hand all the time. And so the hammer, and that, it seems strange how you coordinate. These are bits and pieces, you see. And you can see some of the others. Early piece of silver inlay on there, you see. And I had the dog one here that's in copper, you see. We didn't have gold to play with then. And it's my early attempt at etching the background then, you see. So it's 1956. Start of 1956, and so going to the various museums like the Wallace Collection and Tower of London and that, seeing all these various beautiful guns and that, you aspired to doing something beautiful on there. So that's how I more or less had the passion. We had no idea as a kid, you know. You saw these things in museums, used to go down there. Never dreamed in the month of Sundays that you would ever start doing it yourself, you see. And that was the main thing that when I went to Purdy's with my mother to see Harry Lawrence to sort of apply for an apprenticeship, I said to my mother when I saw this small scroll on flowers, I don't think I'll ever do that, Mum. Oh, it's too complicated. You know, as a little 15-year-old, you get a bit scared. You don't know what you're capable of. And that was it. You see, you had a good tutor, a nice chap. You know. I used to grind my little gravers up too fine, and the other guy, Bill Smith, said to me, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing it like that. You should be doing it like this." Harry Kell said, "Leave him alone. He's getting good results. Just leave him alone." So he left alone. So I had my little gravers all you know, ground to what I thought was an idea, you know, and they worked well. And then I was over the moon at one Christmas, the first Christmas, when Mr. Kell gave me half a crown, that's in money, you know, to go down to the jeweller's and buy myself a graver, a piece of steel. Nothing like we got today. You know, they always go on about. You had to take it back and temper it, get it straw coloured, make sure that the point didn't fracture, grind it down, and that's a very quick roll of what I was doing. Bye for now.